and understanding of the legal framework. Now, it's only when we have a brush with the law that we realize that, oh, we've overlooked this, and let's get this done. So we outsourced these activities, and staff were only trained on how to develop business plans. But after that, that's where it starts and stops. So we outsource that. But we currently have employed people with the requisite skills to manage some of these activities in-house. Now, outside your finances, we need to find, outside the outflows, we need to find ways of bringing in the inflows. And we have a marketing system. It's dependent on the marketing system and the kind of strategy we want to deploy. And as an entrepreneur, we realize that the person who brings revenue into the company are the customers. In this case, our customers are the smallholder farmers who are organized as farmer-based organizations. And so we treat them well, like any business setup would do. I remember a situation where I went on the field and I saw some ladies lined up, sitting out there. The staff were in the room. What's happening here? Oh, these are the women bringing produce. And why are they waiting? Madam, they are too troublesome. Wow. So look, this is the reason why we exist. They make us exist. They are the most important people in whatever we do. Each time you see a supplier, you need to jump. So now let's start jumping. And that attitude changed. But you see, all these things are discovered by the fact that they didn't have any formal training on the importance of the customers. Now, for sustainability, we also conduct market audits. And all these things come as a result of my training. So I realized something has to be done. We insist on record keeping. We insist setting reporting formats, noting fine details. A classical case in sustaining our operation was we do deliveries of produce to clients' doors. And personnel prefer using private haulage systems instead of using our transport because they think ours is too small. So we kept data on how much it costs to haul over a period, and using our own, and then against using the pipe and thing. And we realized that we were about 80% cheaper. It was 80% cheaper for us to use our own vehicles. And it didn't need any more talking. It became the mainstay. So people who can analyze data and do this kind of market audit are key to sustain the business. And we also take, like I said, customers are also very important. We take their complaints seriously, and my involvement, direct involvement, also makes a lot of difference. And in our cross-functional activities, we don't just have, anybody can walk to me or any senior officer to discuss an issue. That's how open we are. Because from the training we have instilled, or the culture, they know that reporting is only to weed out inefficiency and to ensure that we continue staying in business. So it's not taken with a bad intention. Now, the success of any marketing plan depends on hiring, training, salary, processes, and providing challenging and fun environments. Most people in agribusiness think it's straight, stringent business. But I want to assure you that when you add the last line, provide challenge and fun, it makes it more interesting. We have times out, there are times that employees are brought over to some place with their family, treated well, go back and let's work. And so you have situations where there's a public holiday, we have a deadline to meet, and I presume everybody is closed. But then they're like, oh no, we have a deadline to meet. And it all comes from the kind of motivation that is offered. So our marketing drive is determined by expectations and motivation, not rationality. and our concerted efforts will lead to growth. Now, in everything we're doing, planned growth is necessary. I've heard people say that, Gina, why don't you do this? You need to do that. You need to do that. But because our operations are mainly from internally generated funds, we are careful in expanding. Lots of activities will put pressure on you to do things which you know you don't have the competence to. And so as in agribusiness, there's a need for you to be able to manage these pressures and follow your growth plan. Okay. And our strategy for growth follows three main value propositions: operational excellence, product leadership, and customer intimacy. When I talk operational excellence, we treat every stakeholder in our value chain with respect. We do things properly so that everything we do becomes a recommendation for the next business. We have farmers seeking to partner with us because we promote excellence in everything we do. And they have seen other farmers benefiting and their livelihoods being impacted positively. So they come in to solicit our support. Now, product leadership. We've been working the rice value chain for some time, and people are advocating for putting your products on the market. But because we want it to be a lead product, we need to do things right, get it right first time. So when we make a show on the market, we're there to lead. Customer intimacy. I indicated that the farmer-based organizations are the fulcrum around all our income-generating activities. We know them, they know us, and we have good relationships with them. We take an interest in some of their social activities, and where we can, we support. Where we can't, we empathize. And that's how well we know them. So, a strategy for growth is a winner's choice, and that is our choice. So I quote that, nothing great will ever be achieved without great people. And great people are great only if they are determined to be so. It is my wish that this school is going to groom a crop of students who want to be great people, who want to achieve something, and more importantly, want to impact lives. Now, the program, I would like to re-emphasize on what Abdul said, should not be structured to attract graduates who are looking for another course to do, but rather people who are either already in the agribusiness, who lack the requisite training, or people who want to go into it to apply. It should not be a safe haven for students who can't get employment and so want to languish in classrooms. This is my appeal to the implementing organization. So in concluding, we see that there's a need for a crop of recruitable personnel to have management training, to facilitate the realization of corporate goals, to sustain any organization. The fewer the management-trained personnel, the longer the learning curve for any agribusiness, the slower the ability of the organization to make an impact and grow. Because growth and sustainability is a result of good management practices, in addition to recognizing and utilizing opportunity. Thank you very much.
This is something that is very dear to my heart. Just about a month and a half ago, International Food Policy Research Institute, in conjunction with GIMPA, ran an agribusiness management program. We ran it here in GIMPA. It was very successful. This was a program planned by IFPRI, International Food Policy Research Institute, the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore, the Indian Institute of Management at Ahmedabad, and then GIMPA, of course, and then University of Ghana. We had about 35 participants, and some of the people that have been also participated, some of the faculty in GIMPA participated. It was very successful. As it was said by Madam last speaker, we didn't just take students who wanted to still be in the classroom. We went in for practitioners who came in and then shared their experiences with us. So it was a very rich group of people where people were giving us practical experiences on the field. And then people who have taught for a very long time in these areas also blended the experiences with real practice and theory. As the name goes, agriculture, business and management. You know, you've done agriculture for a very long time. What we haven't done much is to look at agriculture as a business. And what we haven't done for a long time also, when we begin to look at it as a business, we have not managed it. So we need to put all these three things together and then see how we can move on. In Ghana, we have been glorifying the small-scale farmer. It's not only in Ghana, it happens in Asia and other African countries. You have big organizations like the World Bank and others trying to glorify the smallholder. But for how long can we rely on the smallholder if we want to begin to do this sort of thing? It's not just good enough to say we have 60% of the working population in agriculture. We need to begin to wean people out of agriculture as we create jobs in purely non-agriculture sectors and then off-farm sectors. And agribusiness offers an opportunity for us to be able to do that. Pre-farm processes, farm processes, and then of course off-farm processes, including transportation, processing itself, storage, warehousing, and retailing. All of these things are things that we need to pay attention to as we move on. I'll give you an example. I think the farmer, as we see, whether it's big or small, has to begin to increase his or her income. They don't earn enough. They don't earn enough because they are just concentrated on the farm. We have to begin to see how the farmer participates in the pre-farm and then off-farm activities. If you take a bar of chocolate that is produced in UK, and the bar of chocolate costs, say, £1, the farmer is only getting 4% of that £1. And why? Because the farmer is not participating in it. Why can't the 96% or so also part of it accrue to the farmer? And this can only happen if the farmer begins to participate in the whole chain of activities. I was glad when Madam showed that their emphasis in the middle of everything that they do is the farmer-based organizations. And we need to put farmers together so that they can do things. I was visited Indonesia some time ago, and if you look at cocoa processing, they don't just do it in large-scale processing firms. They are doing it in small processing firms owned by farmer organizations. Farmer organizations can produce the seed that they want, they can do the marketing that they want, and then get going. So we need to see how we can put farmers, if as small as they are now, which I'm not advocating for, what we need, because we can't sack them tomorrow. What we need to do is to put them together to be able to make a lot for themselves. I was glad to read 2 days ago the internet that Cargill, Ghana, wants to expand its cocoa processing. They are now currently doing about 60,000, now they want to double it also. And that is very good. But I want to say that it is not only large-scale processing. Because Cargill says that to be able to expand, they will need some incentives from government. And one of these incentives is price. They think Ghana's cocoa is too expensive. But it's the same cocoa that somebody is processing in the UK, selling it in the market in Switzerland or Zurich or somewhere and making money. Why can't Cargill also use it and then do that? If our processes are too expensive, we need to bring down our cost of production so that we can participate in the market. So this is what I would like, a message I would like for you, being somebody who has had a lot to do with higher education and teaching and research. I think this is something in the right area. I'm pleased that GIMPA has picked it up. I encourage not only GIMPA but the whole 6 or so universities around Africa which are going to be involved in this program. I give you my support, and then I wish you well. But I would like to say that I started by talking about IFPRI. I would like to say that the International Food Policy Research Institute is still open to have discussions with you and see how we can dovetail what we did 2 months ago into your new program. So all the best, and I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. I'm very excited to be here at this important occasion. I want to thank our special guest of honor and our speakers for taking time out of your busy schedules to share with us insights and to really set the stage for why we felt that this program time has come. And thank you so much for actually setting the context. You've done a lot of my work for me. So now that they've really highlighted the need, I can focus on the opportunity that we saw and give you some details on what the program is about to guide our Q&A session that follows. So just to introduce who I am and why I'm standing here, I'm representing the Association of African Business Schools, which is ABS for short. That is a membership of 28 business schools across the continent, including GIMPA, where we are, and also Professors Ultra University of Ghana as well, members. What the association focuses on is trying to improve the practice, has traditionally tried to improve the practice of management education, doing that through capacity building in schools, trying to improve the way management is taught, through, for example, teaching the case method, research activities, and so on. But as the association decided to look at the relevance of its mission and organization's contribution to Africa, decided that if you really are going to contribute to economic growth in the continent, which is its mission, you need to be able to contribute directly to sectors that are so critical to the continent. And so agriculture obviously was identified as key. I think speakers before me have spoken on why this is important in terms of the source of employment, in terms of its potential, in terms of the job creation, food security. I mean, all these answers are discussed over and over and over again. But we felt that business schools have to start to develop relevant content. And so looking at the opportunity, we felt that in a way this is the future of agribusiness, this is the future of agriculture in Africa, agribusiness, where traditionally you've had a focus on agriculture, everything that happens at the farm level, improving yields, focusing on increasing that and so on. But there's been very little attention paid to the management and business skills that is needed to actually add the value and unlock the potential, even right from the farm level to fork. And so it was interesting listening to Blue Skies, the Blue Skies model and the progress they've made. And that in a way is what we want to be able to see. So many more examples of this, so many more industries developed to that level where you take it right from sourcing the fruits to the retail level in Marks and Spencer, or actually to the plates. And so when you take Ghana's cocoa sector, which we've highlighted, which even actually has a lot more that we can do to unlock that potential in terms of value addition. You take Kenya's horticulture industry, which is currently $1 billion market. You look at the potential that countries like Tanzania have, that countries like Mali have. You look at the industry in South Africa, which has really developed their agribusiness potential, where you take everything as Professor Audrey noted, from processing to storage to retail, the whole business of agriculture. And we realize that this is where we need to unlock the opportunity. Growth from agriculture is up to 3 times more effective in reducing poverty than growth from other sectors. So when we talk about economic growth in Africa, it really has to be inclusive for us to reach our potential and feed our people, which will be 2 billion by 2050. And we'll have 1.1 million people in the job market by 2040. Which jobs do they provide? Can we see more people working in manufacturing, in starting businesses that are around agriculture, that are sustainable, that are really developing the industries? And so that was where that was the journey we came to in establishing the Agribusiness Consortium. So this is a consortium currently of 6 African business schools with global partners involved, which includes Harvard's Agribusiness Program, the International Food and Agribusiness Management Association, and the Global Business Schools Network. And simply our objective is to provide business and management education to the agriculture development sector. So what we're looking to do, this is the starting point, this program is the starting point
but can you be able to develop agribusiness management programs for professionals, managers, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and so on working in the sector that you can complement their technical skills with business and management skills. So I'll just quickly run through what the consulting looks like. Is that you do have the core focus on development and delivery of programs, which is led by the schools and supporting faculty. But we also realize the fact that one of the things that we are seeking to address is that for this to really address the needs of the sector, we have to work with industry. And so this program believes that it's very important to align the program offerings, the development of programs to the needs of the industry. And so we look at, somebody mentioned earlier that the agriculture industry is so complex, and indeed, in doing our needs assessments, we realize that the needs of the sector are so vast. There are so many stakeholders that are involved in this entire value chain. And so you need to, in a way, have a community to understand the issues and to really address them. Can we look at bringing the entire stakeholders, all the stakeholders in the network are important, from policy and government to researchers, to input suppliers, to businesses, to trainers and extension workers. And can we have them all involved in understanding what that market looks like and what the development needs, the skill training needs are? Because if we are going to build human capital, and that's our objective really, to be able to develop change agents that will be the ones that are the catalysts for unlocking this potential. And so it's two focuses, it's design and development, but it's also bringing the community together. So now I'll focus on the program. And I think in trying to open this new page, we felt that a lot of things had to be done differently. Our needs assessments, which we did across Africa, what the market told us was that we do not want another, we do not need, not even want, we do not need another traditional academic program. We need something that is really practical, hands-on, and grounded in the needs of the sector. And so theory is not going to help us. And so what we felt like in building the pillars of this program, we felt that it was important that the content and approach had to be different. Someone has mentioned that the market doesn't have the time. If you're dealing with professional managers and so on, they don't have the time to take 1 year, 2 years off and then just sit in the classroom. Their work is on the field. So can you have a structured approach that is different to accommodate the needs of this work and that allows them to apply skills that they're learning in the classroom to the field as they go on? We felt that action learning was important. You can only teach management, you only learn management by doing. You only teach it by them practicing management. And so can we have an approach that is grounded in action learning, being able to apply what you're learning in the classroom to what you're doing in your roles. And we felt that the connection to industry is extremely strong. Can we design programs with this as a starting point that is addressing the need of value chain? So if it's the livestock value chain, if it's crops and fruit, that's what we're here. And I'm very surprised to hear that we have to source papayas and mangoes from Benin and Togo, and that this is a tropical country. Why should there even be a need? So what are the needs of that industry? What is missing? And how can programs address skills that really enable managers and change agents to solve problems and transform sectors? So those were our pillars. And so what we looked at, based on the fact that we needed to do something different, we needed it grounded in action learning, and we needed a very relevant practical program, was to come up with a 6-month modular block program. And by modular block, I mean that the content is separated into different modules that are in 5-day modular blocks every 2 months. So you have a 6-month period for the entire duration of the program, but this is structured into having 3 modular blocks where participants in the program only come in for 1 week every 2 months, and in between that time, they are taking the contents that they are learning in the classroom and applying it through their work assignments and through their practical roles to the field. And so we designed that thinking that we needed that flexible structure to enable full participation, but also to suit the target market. And just to emphasize here that the target market for the program is looking at managers, and this is managers across the agricultural value chain. So it could look like genus managers, I don't know what you would call them, but the agricultural graduates you're referring to who are in the field training the farmer business centers. It could be managers working in Stephen's team. Stephen, I'm assuming you're not the only one still. Have they added more to your team? Okay. Managers working with Guinness Ghana with the sorghum value chain. It could be AGRA sub-grantees, key managers of NGOs that are working in key agricultural value chains. It could be extension workers from the Ministry of Agriculture. If you have the project leads there, the district officers so on. We're looking at professional managers, and it could be actually the supply chain manager, ShopRite or Blue Skies or whatever it is. You're looking at that manager level, people who are in a decision-making position, who are dealing with significant projects, and so that you can say that if you're equipping this change agent with the skills, they'll be able to apply this directly to see impacts on the field. So business schools are not going to be able to reach directly every farmer, but can you work with the people who are at that turning point to effect the change? And so in listening to the market, we wanted to understand what the issues were in the sector. And the issues that led us to define these modules where we realized that people do not have understanding of the agricultural value chain as the starting point. So everybody operates in their silo. People do not understand who the stakeholders are, what the linkages are, what this entire chain from farm to fork looks like, the processes involved, the relationships and interactions across the chain. So at the starting point, can we set the trend in understanding that? And that includes from the global to the local to your operational organization level. Can we look at the trends? Can we look at the cross-cutting issues? We felt that if you are training change agents, starting with an analysis of self, a goal setting, and addressing some things and leadership issues are equally important. Because to transform, you have to have a goal and a purpose. So we wanted to introduce some personal leadership as well. And then it continues into looking at the issues that are key to the chain in terms of market dynamics, understanding customers. We've heard a lot about customers today, but who your customer actually is, what are the different issues, how do you actually structure a value proposition and a product for your customers that is not only attractive, but it's sustainable. It's sustainable in the sense that it continues to give you value in terms of profits, in terms of growth of the customers, etc. We felt that we also heard from the market that supply chain and logistics issues are a problem. We all know the challenges in agriculture in terms of infrastructure, in terms of all the challenges that the sector faces that leads to rising costs. But if these issues are not going to disappear overnight, how can we in a way be able to navigate? As someone said, build business models that mitigate the risk. I think Abby, you mentioned that earlier. But also understand how to work with the different actors. And so the communication, the soft skills and so on, the relationships. You talk about supply agreements, the strong agreements you have and so on. Can we really teach those skills? And not teaching them in terms of you come into a classroom and we say this is how you talk to the banker, but in terms of them practicing it. So coming up with assignments, coming up with interactions, even amongst the class, because you're bringing that value chain together. So if I have a banker who is in charge of an agribusiness portfolio in the class, engaging with the manager of a farming cooperative, and then you now begin to understand the different sides of the coin, what the issues are, and then working together to come together to solutions. So we feel that even the class profile, if you're talking about an executive level of education, the interaction and the learning from each other in the class is equally important. And then we thought we had to look at issues in terms of financial management, which doesn't just look at the basics, but also enables them, and I think through all of this, they're learning through very practical tools. So can you run a simulation in terms of running a farm, or in terms of running, let's say, a business, through an agribusiness simulation that lets you deal with all these issues. So I'm not just telling you what the cash flow is, but through your simulation, you have to make decisions on cash flow, make decisions on where you allocate resources, how you pool resources together. And through that, you're equipping with skills that you can apply. And then we felt that in the context of agriculture in Africa, it's impossible to not understand public-private partnerships, to not work with governments and key policy makers. And so can we look at important issues like that in terms of how do you structure these agreements, what does this entail? And all this is being done through, as I said, very innovative pedagogy in terms of the teaching methods and focusing on cases that address these issues, simulations, group discussions, field work, etc. And to make sure that you're really rooted in the action learning, which is based on. And then the participants will also have the opportunity to work on projects, real-life projects, solving real-life problems with companies in groups and so on. We think that it's important if you're defining a curriculum to have what the underlying goals and values of this program are. And so we think that it's rooted in being able to collaborate. One of the things we heard from the market, and I think we know in this room, is that there's a complete lack of trust. The reason why supply chain relationships are not strong is that there's a lack of trust, there's a lack of ability to work together. And so the program is rooted in being able to develop that collaborative orientation, being able to understand the global picture, what the trends are, and how you can position for the future. Focusing on ethics, focusing on innovation in terms of how do you actually begin to develop products. Because if we are saying agriculture is so underdeveloped, and we have in a way a century ahead of us to develop that, where are the opportunities, and how do we leverage and unlock those opportunities? And so we believe that through this program, we want to offer participants tools that they can apply in management. We want them to understand, and as trends and realities will continue to develop, it's also about how you actually think and unpack and really process what these opportunities are. And we want to focus really on the learner, where you can engage the learner, the adult learner actually, which is a different technique. It's not talking about typical students, but it's an adult learner. How do you really give them skills and give them, focus your content that you're delivering in an approach that allows them to actually apply and develop skills through the process. And so what we hope to do is that you want to develop leaders, and I will call them leaders here, or change agents, that actually start to have the skills in terms of the right answer, approaching problems, being able to ask the right questions, and develop skills of analysis. We want to focus on them to apply. So the program is very rooted in application. This is why we have a structured program over time. This is why actually an action learning project has to be done as the capstone of the program before you graduate. Because how do you take the skills and the tools that you're being exposed to and apply them to your different goals? What does it make you do differently? What does it make you do better? And how do you measure that ability to do that better? And what we feel like is that if you do with time, and this is all over Africa, in Ghana, in Tanzania, in Nigeria, which are our pilot countries, but where we hope to scale in different countries across Africa. If you do focus on developing a cadre of leaders that are equipped with the skills and approach to approach and develop the agribusiness sector differently, to approach and look at agriculture differently, through that growing pool of managers, which actually in a way form a network, which becomes a lifetime network, you are leading to better results in the sector. You're leading to projects being done more effectively, having deeper impacts, growing and transforming smallholder farmers into commercial farmers, or being part of larger units, whether it's outgrowers and you're growing businesses that are sustainable, moving the medium enterprises. And we do have people in Ghana, if you look around, even when we go to the supermarkets, you have processors starting to, you now see processed fruits and our plantains and our vegetables and so on. How can we sustain that to the quality standards that Blue Skies refer to? How can we continue to develop world-class companies that can create the jobs and the impacts needed? So what we want to do in terms of our vision is that we do want to expand this program. We do think that this is just the starting point. This program is not going to be all things to all people, but it does provide a very strong foundation in which we can begin to untap and develop the human capital needs for agriculture in Ghana. But we do think that when you look at the future, can GIMPA and other educational institutions in Ghana be able to offer programs for, let's say, the livestock chain, horticulture, work with company-specific programs, like if Blue Skies wanted to train their managers in specific skills, or Diageo, or Cargill and so on, or even other emerging projects like the Ghana Commercial Agriculture Project, which is a private-public partnership. How can we position our educational institutions to deliver solutions that are relevant to the needs of our economy and our society? And so what we hope, and what the vision of this consortium is that after 5 years, you should be able to see business schools across Africa being able to develop agribusiness management programs. So when I am working in the agricultural sector, and I know I lack these skills, I should be able to walk into a business school in my country and get an offering that meets my needs. Or when we look at our growing young population, that does not, that when we think about agriculture, we think about farming and the smallholder farmer. Can we begin to change the face of what the agribusiness industry looks like? Someone will say, I guess you can just put it to, how can we make agriculture sexy? How can you really show the potential that it's not just about the farm and that produce that we see making its way to the market on the rough roads and becomes the grade A to D, but it's about everything. It's about business, it's about industry, it's about transforming change, and there's so many opportunities, whether it's even in technology, in terms of the ICT applications you now have to agriculture, to processing, to manufacturing, to even dealing at the customer level. It's a world of opportunity. So how can we actually present that opportunity as we've done with our other sectors? And so this launch is about, in a way, launching this program, which is due to start in GIMPA on 21st October, I believe. Yes, on 21st October. So this, in a way,